living la vida low carb. This show is changing lives. We talking about your diet, trying to get you feeling right. Cut up them avocados, fry some eggs, time to explore the longest running health podcast, hosted by Jimmy Moore. Time to give up the crappy garbage, we're getting into ketosis. Every day is a new step to your goal, yeah, you're getting closer. Motivated and focused, don't stop, just go. Time to get inspiration from the Living La Vida Low Carb Show. Hey, the livinglowcarbshow.com.
Guys, that right there is Alexandra Bucko, and she is a nutritional therapy practitioner currently in another country getting her medical degree. I'll have her tell you about that here in a minute, but she is through health and back. Through health and back. I like to play on words. I'm a big play on words guy. So, and obviously you've had some illness and things in your own past, which I'll have you talk about as well. You help people. You teach so well. Let me brag on you a bit, because I've known you now a couple of years, and you are so effective at taking the nerdiness of the science, which you are very much into, but then making it palatable. And that's something I've tried in my own work for many years is, okay, how do you make the average person give a crap about digestion, give a crap about toxins that are in plant toxins like oxalates, and how do you make that sexy? How do you communicate it? And you do it so well through the use of slides, like a series of slides and infographics. Just very well done. I've enjoyed following your work.
Thank you. It really means a lot. And I don't think that there's ever a way that you could make anti-nutrients sexy, but I'll take it.
Well, you do as good a job as you possibly can. So she does have a website, guys, throughhealthandback.com. And like I said, she does a lot of research and really communicates it well. But let's back up. Let's tell your story. How did you go through hell and back to get to health and back?
Yeah, so it took a long time. I was diagnosed with my first, I guess you'd say, chronic illness when I was 11, and I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. I had a few doctors at the time tell me it was probably stress-induced, but, my family and me, just know that stress can't do this, whatever. So time went on, I got better. I did realize that I was intolerant to gluten and dairy when I was in high school and then progressively through college. Ended up with celiac in college, finally was diagnosed. And then years went by and things slowly went downhill, mostly in college, heightened stress, starting to work, just in general. Was diagnosed with low adrenal function, hypogonadism. I lost my menstrual cycle for a solid 6 years, hypothyroidism. Whoa. Yeah, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, and then finally at the age of 22, I was diagnosed with lupus.
Other than that, you were great.
Yeah, just great. So
I said, other than all those things, you were great.
Everything is peachy. So I went through everything, and I tried to look for Western medicine, and I tried to go with it, and every pill that they gave me, and I took a lot of pills. I think my Mom and I finally put together a script list of how many pills I actually took, and it was in the hundreds, different prescriptions, that tried, and a lot of them I had really adverse effects to, like really adverse effects. Actually, at one point for my lupus, I actually started chemo drugs, methotrexate. So, I literally did everything, and nothing worked. I actually got sicker. I tried going vegan for 3 years, and at the end of that 3 years was right around when I got diagnosed with lupus. So my health was in the toilet. Ended up one of my best girlfriends that I was working with at the time, still one of my best friends to this day, she turned me on to Rob Wolf. And I started listening to his podcast, and I ended up finding the practitioner that I worked with for many years. And he's the one that got me into all of this. And I ended up, being so sick at my corporate job. I was working in construction management at the time. I was probably putting in 80 or 90 hours a week when I was diagnosed. And I just couldn't go back to my job. So when I left my job, I took a few months, I was just so sick I literally couldn't get out of bed. And I went back to school for nutritional therapy. Thanks to my mom, she really pushed me to go. And
what year?
What
year was that, Alexandra?
18?
2018, okay.
Yeah. So I went through the program, and then that's just kind of set everything off. So that's kind of where I'm at. And then,
they put so much emphasis on digestion, so much emphasis on minerals and vitamins and deficiencies. So that was
Yeah.
right up your alley with what you were personally dealing with. And now
Yeah.
you're able to be passionate about it and say, hey, look, guys, I lived this. I know this stuff.
Yeah, totally. It was actually really frustrating because there would be modules that like something would correlate directly with like something I was going through or something I wasn't doing, and I'd just be like, dang it, universe, like thanks,
but
no
you learn.
thanks. Yeah,
That's the fun part. That I mean, it's a great program. People that have gone through it, and I wrote a book with a lot of the principles in it called Real Food Keto, and so it's one of those things that if you don't know, you don't know.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, no, and I agree with you. I think it's an excellent program. I think for anyone that either wants, you don't even have to be a nutritional therapist, but if you want to get into it and if you want to learn more about how to heal yourself and your family, I think it's a wonderful program. So
now you're in med school. Tell us the country you are talking to me in right now. Where are you?
So I'm in Croatia right now. Yeah.
So in Croatia, and you're doing medical school there. Why Croatia? Why not a medical school in America?
So different reasons. Primarily, when I started everything, my family's Croatian, so it's like an easy culture for me to want to come back to. Personally, in the heat of everything, America wasn't really a place I wanted to be at the time when I was applying, and also financial feasibility. And it's also so freaking competitive to get into a U.S. medical school, and then you're not really even guaranteed a lot, and then the price. So for me, it just seemed like the best option at the time.
Well, and every time you're not in class, I see you on a beach somewhere, so it's not all bad either.
No. It's a great place, and I've really debated a lot recently of whether or not I want to stay the course in medicine, just because it challenges a lot of my beliefs. And when people ask me about it, I like to say it's like the old man on the street that is so set in his ways.
Yes.
He doesn't want to do anything different. There's no changing it. And, I don't know if that's necessarily what I want to do with my life. I don't know if I want to be dictated. I would rather be, not the dictator, but I would rather have, some say in how things are. So I've always found food to be really healing, and that's honestly where my heart is. So I've really dabbled a lot with going back and forth with if I even want to stay the course. So. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the last couple of years has been crazy in the whole world. What's it been like in Croatia? You've been there the entire time the pandemic's been going on. Is it craziness, or does it somewhat seem normal-ish, just a few masks? What's the deal there?
I was honestly talking about this with my mom earlier today. I love the country. I love this country. Honestly, I am so proud to be Croatian and just be here. It is as close to normal, I think, as you can be in a pandemic. We do still have restrictions, but I mean, if I'm walking in a store without a mask, no one says anything. There are regulations on government buildings, but for the most part, it's pretty normal. So I do consider us really thankful. Yeah.
That's the fun part in America. It's like from state to state, it could be locked down or it could be wide open. I live in South Carolina because nobody talks like this on purpose. And we've been pretty open. And I go into stores, no mask, and less and less people are wearing masks. I think we're kind of ready to move on from the pandemic. And so it just depends on where you are, I guess, in the world. And Australia is the exact opposite. They're locking people up for not wearing a mask. So it's kind of weird in the world still. So
yeah. And my mom, I'm born and raised in Northwest Indiana, so right outside of Chicago, and you cross that state line and everything just shuts. So I get it.
Yes. Well, let's shift gears a bit, because you are pursuing a medical degree, but you're very much in the nutrition world. Are you finding in the classes, like in America with the medical schools here, they don't really teach anything about nutrition? You kind of are left as a medical professional trying to figure that piece out on your own. Is it any different in your training there in Croatia?
So from what I experienced, in my first year, we can take electives, and one of the electives I chose to take was How to Be 100, and that's where you learn about the Mediterranean diet. But as far as course on nutrition, no, we do not have one.
Wow. Yeah, it's a shame, because it's like so many parts of especially chronic health, which is what most of the healthcare system is in America. Chronic disease is what we deal with. Heart disease, diabetes, PCOS for women. I mean, we could go down the list of all the diseases related to insulin resistance, and they're every single one of them tied back in some way to diet and lifestyle. And yet none of those principles are being taught in medical school? Why do you think it's being left out? What's the disconnect?
You know, I've really wondered this myself. I'll like shift back to a really quick anecdote if I can. My grandmother was like the number one love of my life. Like she was the best woman ever. And she was diagnosed with heart failure, congestive heart failure. She had macular degeneration, rheumatoid arthritis, and all she took was pills and pills and pills. I mean, literally, I remember Ziploc bags of pills. And looking back, I have literally, you know, researched what the heck happened. I totally think there was some lying, whatever, but deficiencies, diseases of deficiency was all I think she had, you know, like vitamin B1, thiamine. I totally think that that was congestive heart failure. But, you know, in Western medicine, you can't patent a vitamin. You can't sell a vitamin for the cost that you sell a pharmaceutical for. You can't do clinical trials for billions of dollars, millions of dollars, you know, on vitamins. It's just there. It's natural. So I'm not saying that there's some covert operation, although sometimes I do think that there is, but I totally think that it just doesn't fit in necessarily with what Western medicine wants, you know, because you can either take a pill that totally mimics some type of physiological something, or you can take a vitamin that actually does it.
Well, look, I think Western medicine, other than fixing broken arms and laceration, things like that, they're always going to be needed for that, and they're very good at that. So well done, allopathic medicine.
Right.
But from a chronic disease standpoint, from a put you on a pill and you take this statin medication, for example, for the rest of your life for heart disease, those days I think are ending. I think people are catching on. They're realizing it's why the popularity of a lot of the most popular diets over the past 20 years has been on really healthy nutrition. You had Atkins diet, you had paleo, primal, whole30, keto, carnivore, real food. I mean, all of these movements were all around mainstream healthcare. You have fucked this up. And we've got to figure things out on our own. And I have people on my show all the time, Alexandra, who they tell me they had to basically give the middle finger to allopathic medicine because doctors told them there was nothing wrong with them. Everything was on the normal range, and yet they're still sick. They're still dealing with, oh, you're going to have to take this pill the rest of your life. I don't think that's an option anymore, and people know that.
Right. No, I think you're right. And I think too, you know, social media is totally bittersweet, but I think it's been really great just because it's given people the opportunity to interact and to find people like themselves if they are sick, to communicate. And, you know, even Reddit, as terrible as Reddit is, but it's given people the opportunity to see that they're not alone and that other people have gotten out of this sticky situation medically that they've been in for 10 or 15 years, that someone told them that they're trapped in forever, and that, you know, you can change it with nutrition or lifestyle or even sunlight. You know, there are ways out. So, yeah, I don't know.
Well, and, you know, we could go to diet for a second, and I want to, because you and I actually have the same philosophy when it comes to diet. The friggin' labels don't help anybody. Like, everybody online talks about, well, that's not keto, that's not carnivore. And I'm like, who the hell cares if you're trending in the direction of getting away from overtly processed, what I like to refer to as crappy garbage types of diets, sugars and grains and starches that they're just devoid of all minerals and nutrients at all, and go towards foods that are full of nutrients. You know, why would we poo-poo on people who are making those choices, and why would they need to have a label? My best friend called me the other day. She's like, Jimmy, help me get back on a low carb diet. I think I need to go keto. I said, no, you need to eat and nourish your body. You don't need a label for it.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think it's, you know, I know we commented on the same thing and we were going back and forth in the chats this evening, but it's so sad that we are quick to call somebody orthorexic, you know, for not eating processed foods, and to say, hey, you know, I'm not going to eat that. You know, I don't want to touch that. You know, I'm going to eat something else, and have somebody call that orthorexic, or have somebody say, no, I'm going to fast instead of eating that McDonald's meal, which is my only option at the airport. And, you know, saying, oh no, you're anorexic. No, I'm just going to fast. I'm choosing not to eat. I'm making a conscious decision. I'm not harming my body in any way. I'm going to put food in it, but I'm just choosing what I want. But then again, you know, if somebody's going to eat processed foods, which is what wrecks their body, we don't say, oh, you're an addict, or you have this problem, or what. what would we do if it was drugs or alcohol, you know?
Nobody said a damn word to me the entire
Mhm.
time I was becoming 400 plus pounds. Nobody.
Exactly.
They
No.
just were like, well, that's just Jimmy eating. But then as soon as I started eating kind of an Atkins style diet when I first started, oh my gosh, that's going to give you a heart attack. And it never made sense
Yeah.
to me. I'm eating healthier, and yet the
Mhm.
healthier is going to give me a heart attack, but you didn't give a care in the world when I was downing McDonald's, Big Macs, and French fries, and Coca-Cola, and Little Debbie snack cakes, and every bit of carbs that I could stuff in my mouth.
Yeah.
You didn't say anything at that point. Like, is it just taboo to bring that up? What's the deal?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I've never understood it. And, you know, I mean, I would even to say drinking to people who've gotten to that point, you know, they'll
Yes.
point out when you're not drinking, but when you are drinking, it's fine. It's not a problem. But if you're not drinking, it's why aren't you drinking? What the heck?
You're the weirdo if you don't drink. Yeah, and I'm one of those.
Yeah.
I rarely drink. I just
Yeah.
it just doesn't do anything for me. Plus, I don't need to be drunk to be fun. I can have fun without it.
Yeah, I'm weird anyway. You don't need to give me alcohol.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, that diet culture, I'm hoping that I hope we stop having the next diet trend. Everybody's like, Jimmy, you predicted keto was going to come almost 10 years ago. What's next? I'm like, hell if I know. I hope it's nothing. I hope it's find the diet that's right for you and do it.
Yeah, I hope it's nutrient density. I hope that people are
Yes.
finally like, that's what I want to chase. So
Yes. Well, look,
yeah.
I think that should be a given. I don't even think we need to articulate eat a nutrient dense diet. Your body needs nutrients. Your body has specific dietary needs for vitamins and minerals and macronutrient specific ones for your body. And look, don't ask me what yours is supposed to be, people, because I don't know. You've got to
Exactly.
tinker around, test with it, hire a nutritional therapy practitioner like Alexandra, and kind of figure out what those are. Because you guys do these tests. What's that test called where you neuromuscular? What's it called?
Oh, LNT, yeah, where you lingual neuromuscular test and
That's
you
it. And so
and you do the nutrients.
you
Yeah.
push on parts of the body, and it tells you where you're deficient in various nutrients. That was so magical when I first
Yeah.
sat down on or laid down on a table, and a NTP started pushing on me, and she's like, "Oh, here, put this underneath your tongue." And I'm like, well, why? Like, it was so weird.
Yeah.
But then
Yeah.
when she said, "Well, you're deficient in zinc, you're deficient in this," I'm just like, "Whoa, that is magic."
Yeah, and it's really cool too when you're on the table and you feel it change. You know, you feel that supplement go in your mouth, and you're like, "Whoa, I went from that really hurt to I don't feel that at all," and you're like,
Yes.
"Okay, this works."
Yes, it's incredible. And yet it's simple things like that the medical system has no clue about. They don't want to know about, at least from a
Yeah.
medical perspective. I think doctors would love to know about it if they knew what they didn't know, but they don't know what they don't know.
Well, and in their defense, you know, they're not trained to be open-minded to this. You know, medical school is you have 6 years, it's 6 over in Europe, you have 6 years to cram as much knowledge as you can in a very short amount of time. And what you don't have time for, you can do after when you're doing 70-hour-a-week rotations and you're studying for boards and you're busy trying to get into whatever, you know, what you want to do. There's just no time. So with doctors, you know, defense, that's really not there. And on that point too, the studies and the research for that, nobody would fund it. I mean, again, there's no money to be made.
I'm going to push back a little bit on that because there are CME requirements that medical doctors have to go through. So that's continuing medical education for those of you that don't know. I've been to some of these conferences. I've had some of my doctor friends that I've interviewed say, hey, come to this conference and just as a layperson observe. And so I'm observing and I see these breakout sessions paid for by pharmaceutical companies to push the new drug. I'm not seeing anything on digestion. I'm not seeing anything on the impact of toxins on your body. I'm not seeing the things that I think could make a real difference in people and patients' lives. I just see more pills, potions, and surgeries that will somehow be the next medical miracle, and all it does is still band-aid the real problems.
Right. No, I 100%, I agree with that. I was going to say something, but I totally lost my point. Yeah.
It'll come back.
It'll come back, yeah. I don't know what, yeah.
So let's shift into those things that are important. They're things that are passion of yours. Again, guys, go follow her Through Health and Back on Instagram. Great, great, great information on there. In fact, your latest one, as of the recording of this, explaining your condition to others, where you talk about, you know, what you deal with and how you can explain it. Because people have these notions of when you say you have X, they don't know. It's always filtered through whatever they believe about X. It's not actually what X is about. And so then you kind of have to like explain, but do you really have to explain? It's really none of their business. Anyway, it's kind of fun. But let's hit a topic that I know is a big one of yours, and that is this whole idea of toxins. They are literally everywhere in the environment, in the food, in the 5G. Is 5G in Croatia yet?
No, I was actually just talking to, again, Lauren from Two Purple Carrots, maybe like an hour or two ago. She's in Spain, and we were just comparing countries. And we do not have 5G yet. I actually did some research, and there's just going to be a tower in Dubrovnik, maybe, which is south of here. So the chances it will be here are probably slim, because it is a very costly for infrastructure.
Yeah. Well, and it's a small enough country, it's probably unnecessary.
Yeah, I'd hope so. We do have a lot of tourists in the summer, so I could see that maybe being but, you know, I don't know. I really hope not.
Did you go keto and thought you had to give up wine? Well, let me introduce you to Dry Farm Wines. It is the world's first sugar-free alcohol that is lower than your typical wines, organic, made at local farms that do it the right way. Most of the wines that you buy are from 3 really big companies, loaded with additives and preservatives, so many dozens of those kinds of things. You don't want all that junk in your wine. So go to dryfarmwines.com/Jimmy and they will ship you these wines. And just because you listen to this podcast, Dry Farm Wines is going to give you a bottle in your first order for just 1 cent. Go to dryfarmwines.com/Jimmy and you will get your bottle of wine for just 1 singular penny. Go check them out. Dry Farm Wines, you guys. It's wine o'clock somewhere. Let's go get some wine.
So there's so many toxins in everything. What are the biggest culprits that people are being exposed to and probably are just oblivious to it when it comes to toxins?
Yeah, I mean, where to start? I would say, you know, trace your steps with what you do every day and think about what you're getting. I mean, obviously food is a big one depending on what kind of food you eat. That's like a given. We don't need to talk about that, even though I'm here because I do nutrition. But water is a huge one. You know, not only water that you drink, even though if you're probably drinking from a spigot, you either have well water, which is maybe contaminated with pesticides and runoff, or you have...
I get this from bottle. I have a
I was
spring water.
I
do a spring water that I get very specifically because I avoid whatever the stuff they put into that tap water here in South Carolina. It's probably decent, but it's got stuff in there you don't want.
Yeah. Ours is honestly probably some of the best tap water in Europe, minus the fact that they chlorinate it. But otherwise, it's from a spring, which is actually pretty decent. But you know, I was living in Houston, Texas for a long time. It was around when I initially kind of got sick, and we looked at the water report through EWG, and never again. I mean, the viruses, the bacteria, the heavy metals, the bromide derivatives, the other halogen derivatives, it was disgusting. And, you know, people drink that, and when you think about water, you know, first of all, your body is 60% water, and we as humans use water to detox. It's essentially, you know, we relute and then dilute as we urinate, and then we get rid of all of our toxins. But if you're literally drinking toxins, you're just saturating in, it's gross.
A lot of people use like filtration systems, even like ones you buy in the store, like a Brita filter. Does that get most of them out, or does it leave behind enough that it's still harmful?
It depends like where your water is starting from. So, you know, if you have decent water that isn't heavily chlorinated and it's maybe from a spring, you know, and you just run it through a Brita, I would say okay. But like to get deep-rooted chlorine or fluor, I would not trust it. No, I mean, honestly, like a minimum I ever recommend is either an Aquasana, if you've ever heard of Aquasana, or Berkey.
So don't grab the toilet water and filtrate it through a Brita and hope to drink that and be okay.
I mean, if it's like an apocalypse, so you're like trying to do some crazy conditioning, I would not.
I think about that movie Waterworld. Who was the star of that? But anyway, it was a big movie back in the '90s, and he was on a boat perpetually because everything was water. There was no more land in the world, so he would pee into a jar and then pour it through this filtration system and then re-drink the water. Yeah.
I mean, like survival.
Who was that? Mel Gibson? Who was that? That was.
I don't know. I'm gonna have to look this up.
Yeah,
You know,
Waterworld was the name. Somebody write it down there. I know you know what I'm talking about.
Oh God, no, I would not. I don't know. I mean, I probably would if I was dying, but that's not something I want to think about. No.
Yes,
Although there is some tap water that I would probably say is worse than urine, but.
Yeah. So toxins in the water. Let's talk about the food for a second, because that is your jam. Kevin Costner, somebody said. Thank you, Melinda. Kevin Costner was the star of Waterworld. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So in the food itself, though, I mean, plants we know can have some toxins in them. That's their defense mechanisms. You know, animals have teeth that can bite. Right. Or a bee that has a stinger that can sting you, but plants have these toxins. Are they as big a deal as, say, the carnivore people like to make it out? Oh, the oxalates and the phytates and the like. Is it as big a deal as they make it out to be?
So let's, you know, the main anti-nutrients that come to mind are phytic acid, which are found in grains, some beans, some legumes, oxalates, which are a big one. You know, those are found in root vegetables, some grains, some nuts, lots of seeds have oxalate, phytic acid, oxalate. Let me think what else. Lectins are a big one. You know, the big lectin-free movement. Yes. And these are proteins that are found in vegetables, beans, legumes, seeds, legumes. I said grains. What else are lectins in? I said vegetables. Some fruits. They can be destroyed by pressure cooking in some instances. In some instances, no. Nightshades are another family that have them. And they, like I said, they activate the immune system and they can contribute to leaky gut. Alkaloids, they're found in nightshade vegetables, you have tannins, you have all different types of anti-nutrients. Salicylate are technically considered anti-nutrients, although they're a compound that's also active in aspirin, you know, can help with pain, but then if they're in excess, people can have issues with them. Phenols can be a problem. These are in high antioxidant foods like blueberries, raspberries, green tea, dark chocolate. Phenols for a lot of people can be very difficult if you have something like mast cell activation. If you have autism, they can be problematic. All anti-nutrients have the potential to be a problem. Yes. Depending on the person. And right. It is very individual. You know, there was a time in my own journey where I could not tolerate a food with any of them. Right. And there are people that will never, ever, ever have a problem with them. So I totally believe that anti-nutrients are only a problem for you if your body is nutrient deficient and your detox organs are not working properly, because anti-nutrients are toxins for everyone. Right. You need vitamins and minerals to, you know, tag onto them and then detox them to make them out successfully, or to make them to be removed from the body successfully. When you become nutrient deficient and when your detox organs are blocked up, or you have some type of bacterial overgrowth, something along those lines that's contributing to I would say an endogenous toxin issue. You know, you have bacteria in your gut, say you have candida or something that is producing toxins of their own, you know, this gets added to what we need to remove them from the body pool, makes the detox organs work harder. These are when anti-nutrients become a problem. When you have adequate nutrients, when your detox organs are working properly and you have a balanced microbiome, these are not a problem. So to just simply say, oh no, this has oxalates and I have joint pain, I'm not going to eat this, that is very, very not smart. Just because I'll let you go.
I was just going to say that one of the things you learned from the Nutritional Therapy Association in your training was the detoxification pathway. There's various phases of it, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. And it's like, if it's broken in any of those points, you're going to have trouble getting rid of, like you said, the anti-nutrients. And something that bothers me about the mainstream of nutrition, which are dietitians, registered dietitians, they don't recognize anti-nutrients. Why?
they don't know about them. You know, honestly, it took me a lot of digging to figure out what they were and what in food was causing me problems, because, you know, I would go and I would say to my doctor, carrots are giving me a problem, or beets give me a problem, and they would just look at me like I was crazy and making it up. And I'm like, no, something is wrong with these foods in particular, and I didn't know what it was. And then, you know, you start digging around and you figure out what oxalates are, what lectins are. Oh, this is why, you know, I've gained 20 pounds by focusing on eating non-pressure cooked squashes, and this is why, you know, I feel just so inflamed. And it all makes sense. But most people, you know, the standard of care doesn't even teach you the difference, or not the difference, but, you know, focus on protein. These are the differences between protein, carbs, and fats. These are all your essential vitamins and minerals. These are the effects on the body, let alone what anti-nutrients can do in some of the conditions that they can mimic. Medicine does not teach you that. Dietitians, that is not taught in any registered dietitian program. That is not taught in any, I don't even think, a standard nutrition program.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate because, again, like doctors, when patients go see a doctor, they assume the doctor knows everything as it would relate to your health, and they don't. Same with dietitians. You would think the dietitians would know everything, kind of an encyclopedia of knowledge when it comes to food and what they're comprised of. So, again, disconnect with the mainstream of practitioners that patients and clients would be going to see. And this is why I think people like me exist, because we're able to like expose people to new information they haven't heard before. And it's a shame because I'm just a layperson. You're a layperson with a great education in nutrition through your NTP training, and now you're becoming a medical doctor. Like all of these things, it's a shame that it has to be picked up by people when we have the infrastructure in place with medical doctors, with nurses, with dietitians that could be teaching all of these things right now if they just had the gumption within the medical school and the dietetic school to actually teach this stuff. And I get they only have so many years to cram it all in, but this is a biggie. These are big principles.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And it just take literally, you know, 20 hours out of a semester, or literally like a 1 credit hour class, and you teach kids this. It's not that hard. But then again, you know, what's the incentive out of it?
Yeah, and see, we have to remove the incentive part. I mean, I get it. A lot of medical research is predicated on, okay, what drug can I develop from this $3 million grant that I'm getting to do this study? Like, I get that. And like, if you can't have a return on investment, the NIH doesn't want to fund that. Independent benefactors don't want to give that money because they want to see some kind of ROI. And if they don't see an ROI, then they look the other way. Okay, it's to vitamin D to help lessen the symptoms of this Black Plague thing out there. We're not going to fund anything on that because I don't make any money from that. Vitamin D is so cheap.
No, 100%. And then the other part that that we haven't talked about yet is most people don't want to give up the foods that cause the problems.
Yes.
And that's arguably maybe the bigger thing. I have a neighbor, and we were talking. This is my neighbor back in my hometown, and we were talking. She has a daughter, similar health issues to me, and we were talking, and this was years ago, and I said something about diet. I think it was like maybe around the time I was vegan, and she said, not everyone wants to give up their diet. You know, not everyone can. Not everybody has that type of determination to, you know, make the change of themselves. Most of the people go to food for comfort, you know,
They would if they knew the negative consequences that come from it. And see, this is where I think the diet world has gotten it all wrong. We're like, you should eat, let's just throw keto and get into ketosis and cut out the bread and cut out the sugar and you're not giving them the reason why. You're just saying you should do this. And people are like, but I like sugar and I like my bread and I like this and that. And we're not giving them the compelling reasons why they should choose that way. We're just saying this is healthy. Not telling them why it's healthy. This is a healthy way for you to eat. That doesn't translate to people. You need to say, you know, that bread, it's actually irritating your gut. It's probably causing some leaky gut things. And let me explain what that is and da-da-da. And if that happens, then that could lead to autoimmune disease. If that happens, your blood sugar goes up and you start trending towards a higher A1C, which then puts you at risk for type 2 diabetes. Like, I think if you could, and I get it, not everybody has that time and not everybody will listen to all that, but we're not making a good enough argument for why they should choose health. That's why they're complacent about not changing diet.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. And I think if it was publicized and taught and, you visualized more maybe what would happen and the consequences, people would be more open. But then again, I don't know, because we do know and we do see on smoking packages what smoking does. Nobody cares. Same thing with alcohol. Nobody cares. And honestly, Jimmy, I didn't give a damn until I was chronically ill and bedridden.
Me neither.
So you wonder, but I do agree with you. I totally think that maybe if there was better education on it and it was in your face, more people would care. But
well, and if it was at the front line of the people you go see about your health, like your doctors and your dietitians, if they could reinforce that message, those things are harmful and here's the better way. But what they're getting is, yes, maybe those things are harmful, eat less, move more, whatever they say. They're not saying the right information that's supposedly less harmful. They're giving more harmful advice. So then the patient and client is just confused because they're like, but they say do keto or carnivore online, but my dietitian says red meat's going to cause cancer and give me heart disease. And they just, okay, well, screw it. If people can't be on the same page, I'm going to eat whatever the hell I want and eat, live, and be merry the rest of my life.
And take my vitamin, because that's going to save me.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes vitamins can be helpful. You can get a little extra potassium if you need it or whatever. But only if you know you have a deficiency, which that's where I want to go next. So mineral deficiencies and vitamin deficiencies, I mean, we know about vitamin D deficiency. It's quite well known. But get outside, guys. There's beautiful sunshine out here today. Ground yourself, especially early in the morning. It's typically the best time to get that sun in the eyes, get it all exposed on your skin, and that sets your circadian rhythm. But then that also fills your body with the vitamin D, and making sure you're eating healthy fats so that your body can absorb those vitamin D, because it is a fat-soluble vitamin. And then when it comes to minerals, we have like stomach acid deficiencies. Again, what you learned in nutritional therapy education, and if you don't have enough zinc, you can't make enough stomach acid. So we're usually very low in zinc and all kinds of things. So what are some of the other, because those are two that I think are relatively well known as deficiencies. What are other ones that are maybe deficiencies people don't know about?
Okay, well, we have
I know.
Totally, to start off, I would say let's just start with the nutrients in animal foods. I'll start with the big one, considering it makes up most of your body, and I would probably say 90% of people don't get enough because they don't consume any dairy. Calcium. Yeah. Especially in this community, because most of the time when, you're diagnosed with a chronic illness, the first thing that you do is you're told you're lactose intolerant, and you may not be lactose intolerant. Right. You may just be intolerant to super homogenized, ultra pasteurized dairy. Yes. But when you cut out calcium, there is no bioavailable plant source because of those anti-nutrients that we talked about. Compounds like phytic acid and oxalate. Yes, spinach has a very high calcium content, but it also has a very high oxalate content. And when you run into these anti-nutrients, they have a negative charge that basically is like a magnet to calcium's positive charge, or zinc or magnesium, and it just goes whoop, and then you don't get that nutrient from your food. So I would probably say first and foremost is dairy, and I would say, go ahead. I was going to say, I would caution though on supplementing with calcium, because vitamin D tells calcium where to go, and it can put excess calcium in places it does not need to be, including your coronary arteries. So just word to the wise there for people that might hear Alexandra and say, well, I need to go out and take calcium. No. That's not what we're saying. No. So if you're, curious about your calcium intake and any nutrient intake that we're going to talk about today, I would recommend, going and downloading an app like Chronometer, tracking your food, and then seeing what nutrients you are getting from diet. But we'll touch on that. But if you think that calcium is an issue for you, obviously evaluate the foods that you're eating, see if there is any calcium. If you're not getting calcium, I would consider maybe trying to introduce some goat milk. Goat is usually really well tolerated, especially when it's not ultra pasteurized. Go for more raw or go for a cheese, just because the fermentation process can break down the lactose. If you're doing okay with goat, you know, bring in some cow dairy. There is A1 and A2 dairy. A1 is usually not well tolerated. That's like a Holstein cow. The big black and white cow that you see in the U.S. You want A1, which is like Jersey cows are a good example. You know, Swiss dairy. That's where you want to be. Sheep milk is good. I've seen camel. I know that does really well for some people.
I've actually had camel milk. It's very expensive, and it's got a different flavor than I was expecting. That's for sure. But it wasn't bad. It was milk. Milk is milk is milk. It kind of tastes the same. But the only bad thing about the whole A1, A2 cows is in Europe, it's a big deal. They actually label their milk and other kind of dairy thing. Oh, this is A1. Oh, this is A2. In America, it's just in it, and we don't know what the A1. So this is why knowing your farmer, knowing what breeds of cattle and other ruminants that they have is so helpful getting back to it. And I live in one of the 9 states in America where you can buy raw milk legally still.
Oh, wow.
Shame it's not legal everywhere, but I can go down and actually buy raw cream, raw dairy of all sorts. But yeah, raw milk, unlike, I did a test one time, Alexandra, with my blood sugar, and I tested full fat, whole milk, homogenized, all that, 2%, skim milk, an Atkins shake just to kind of see what that would do, and then raw milk. And of all of those things on my blood sugar, 1 hour postprandial, which is the biggest response, the best response I had was to the raw milk, 5 points in just 1 hour postprandial, because all the fat tapered in. And I'm heavily insulin resistant, so it's like, whoa, like that tells you the power probably the bugs that were in there, along with the fat that was in there, which you have to like skim off that yellow at the top when it's nice raw milk. It's amazing how powerful that is.
Wow, no, that's crazy.
A lot of people ask me, Jimmy, how do you get such good deep sleep? Well, there's a lot of things that I do, but one of the newest things that I recently added is this upgraded magnesium from a company called Upgraded Formulas. Go to their website, upgradedformulas.com, and you can learn all about this nano technology that they use for this particular mineral of magnesium. Again, it's called Upgraded Magnesium, and it's got all the different forms of magnesium in it using the nanotechnology, so it gets absorbed a lot better. Guys, I have seen my deep sleep improve by as much as 30 to 40% simply by adding in this product, along with sunshine exposure, darkness in the room, cooler temperature, all of the things that I always have done. So again, upgradedformulas.com is the website. Go check them out.
No, but if you have that in your state, that's wonderful. I mean, it doesn't just have calcium, you know, it's immunoglobulins, it's vitamin A, it's all your fat. It's you can get some vitamin D, you get iodine depending on the soils that your cow is grown in. So Well, we're on the top of calcium. I just want to say one thing. If you guys are supplementing with calcium, make sure you are taking a vitamin D with K. As Jimmy said, you know, vitamin D, that increases intestinal absorption of calcium in the small intestine. But vitamin K is what shunts it to your bones and not your arteries or, you know, your heart or somewhere, your joints. It can end up in your joints. Not a fun thing. And
it's D3 K2, and they usually sell those in combo. In fact, I have a D3 K2 5000 IU of the D3 in supplement form, and it's usually in like a little gel cap thing. And make sure that the fat that it's in, because they're both A, D, E, and K are all the fat soluble vitamins. You want to make sure that it's got a healthy fat. Don't let them put soybean oil. Use olive oil, coconut oil is the one that mine has, or some other healthy oil.
No, 100%. And also, if you're buying a vitamin D supplement that's in a powder or any fat soluble supplement for that matter, it's junk. Just pitch it. So always buy it in oil, and as Jimmy said, a healthy oil, guys.
What other deficiencies are we having in the vitamins or minerals?
K2 is a good one. Just while we're on the topic, you know, there are 2 forms of vitamin K. You have K1, which is found in green and leafy things, and then you have K2, which is found in ferments, not exclusive to animal foods, although it is in meat as well. But K2 is extremely important for insulin regulation, for calcium storage. It works as an antioxidant. So K2 is a big one. Let's see. I would say zinc is another one. People beat that one over the head, but zinc is really big. You know, the plant foods that it's found in, it's usually overridden with copper and with anti-nutrients. So really, you know, making sure you get zinc from animal foods is super important. Basically, the only bioavailable sources are in meats and poultry and oysters. You know, seafood is wonderful sources.
Isn't it interesting that the deficiencies that we are most high in, vitamin D, zinc, probably vitamin C-ish is in there somewhat as well, are all the things that are helping us with this current issue in the world right now that we're dealing with. Isn't that funny? Like, and especially with, I don't know what it's been like in Croatia, but in America, it's hit our country very hard. And I think it's because of these deficiencies that could easily be shored up with nutrition and, if need be, supplements, but food.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And if you look at some of the nutrients that are really helpful for this situation, vitamin C is huge. Vitamin C is really hard for us to get because not many people consume whole fruits and vegetables. And we're also exposed, you know, vitamin C is one of our antioxidants. It's readily used up under oxidative stress. So, you know, we're chronically stressed. We don't sleep. We're exposed to 5G all the time. We eat like crap. So our vitamin C levels are like negative. Selenium is another big one. It's an antioxidant, but again, you know, it's found in Brazil nuts is the best source. So really in garbanzo beans, I want to say garbanzo or chickpeas, I can't remember. Selenium, you know, found in pork, other animal foods, but again, people don't eat these foods by choice.
Brazil nuts are loaded with selenium. I used to keep them in my fridge because if you leave them out on the counter, they go rancid. But I'll keep a bag because you buy a bag of them and you just eat one, and they look like a little toe, is what they look like. And you just pop it in your mouth every day. They're very delicious, Brazil nuts, if you've never had them, guys. And they're delicious, and they give you all the selenium you need for the day.
Yeah, no, they're great. So what did we say? Zinc, vitamin C, selenium, fish oil is another important one, especially for this situation. Omega-3 fatty acids, but you know, omega-3s in their bioavailable form, they're not found in plant foods. Some people think that they can get it from algae oil. You can't. You need DHA and EPA in their most readily available forms, which is found, you know, not unfortunately, but it's only found in animal foods. Small fish are your best bet, or, you know, wild caught salmon, which is another topic for another day. But those are, you know, your nutrients: selenium, vitamin C, omega-3 fatty acids, zinc, vitamin D and K. Those are your power antioxidants through this whole situation.
And the reason we're deficient in these things, guys, is not just because we don't consume them in the foods that we should be eating, but it's because the foods we do eat, plus the stress in our lives and all the other things that are like the intangibles about your life, they're actually sucking it out of your body, or it's having to compensate for a deficiency in one area by pulling some things from another area to then try to make and shore up. It is such a complex system, guys, that if you don't give your body, which is why chronometer is so important, you can see specifically if you're short in zinc, if you're short in vitamin D, it's going to show you visually from what you're eating how much more of something you need to eat to shore that up.
Or if you can't get it from food because you're intolerant to something, what you might need to supplement until you can eat it. And that's when you know, you don't need to be on supplements unless, you know, somebody is looking at your diet and they're saying, okay, you're definitely not getting this. Let's get this in your system. You're sick. Get your levels up while you start eating these foods. But you don't need to just go mindlessly take, you know, a full-on B complex, this much selenium, this much. You don't need to just be popping pills if you can get it from food, you know.
Well, the good news is if it's a water-based vitamin, then you'll just pee out excess. So if you take a B vitamin, then you don't really need all those B. It'll just pee out whatever you don't need, and you're good. We're running out of time. I got about 5 more minutes, and I want to get to digestion because I think this is the big one, because you noted in your notes to me that part of why people could be dealing with weight gain, chronic illness that kind of just keeps popping up again and again, and then just not feeling well, is your digestion is off. You feel indigestion. And part of that is the lack of stomach acid and some of the other things we've already talked about. But Why? What's going on with the indigestion?
Okay, so I mean, the Chinese knew the digestive system is the second brain. That's what they always said.
Yeah,
And if you
it
look
looks
at
like a brain.
right, and if you look at any civilization, you know, it always pops up by a river. And I've always thought of the digestive system as the river that runs through us, and then there's life all around it, right? It's in the center of you. So when when your stomach acid is low, you know, stomach acid catalyzes every digestive reaction in your body. You know, you actually start digesting your food when you look at it, because then it signals to your brain to start releasing things like salivary amylase that actually start breaking food down in your mouth. But then, you know, after you start chewing food and swallowing it, and it goes into your stomach, the first chemical process that it hits in terms of digestion is when it hits stomach acid. And your stomach acid, your stomach pH needs to be in between 1.5 and 3. The more acidic something is, the lower the pH is. So between 1.5 and 3. And if you don't have adequate stomach acid, your pH does not get that low. When your pH does not get that low, your pyloric sphincter, which is the little trap door that goes in between, you know, your esophagus and your stomach that keeps stomach acid and food from going up, that doesn't close. It's like a signal. So when that isn't signaled to close because your stomach acid isn't low enough or it's not acidic enough, that food comes back up and you start to get GERD. Now, on the flip side of that, if your stomach acid is not low enough, then you do not release pancreatic enzymes and you do not release bile. Going back a little bit, stomach acid is your first antibiotic of your system. You know, it is a natural antimicrobial. So anything, you know, if you swallow a parasite or if you swallow some bacteria, the whole idea of your, you know, first line of defense, your immune system, is that is going to get dissolved in your stomach. So if you don't have adequate stomach acid, all of those microbes, they can fester. Bile is another antimicrobial. That's what I said, you know, is when stomach acid hits, it triggers the release of bile and pancreatic enzymes. Bile is what breaks down your fats. Pancreatic enzymes help to break down your carbs, proteins, and fats. So, you know, when your stomach acid, again, when it isn't low enough or it isn't acidic enough, these chain reactions don't happen, and you're not breaking down and absorbing any of your nutrients. So when you're not breaking down and absorbing any of your nutrients, none of your metabolic processes occur. So that can make you fat. That can make you not detox, which can make you fat. You know, you have toxin storage. So you're just a toxic ball of junk that isn't absorbing their nutrients, and your digestive system is prone to bacterial overgrowth because you don't have those antibiotic substances that are flowing through you. You know, you become backed up, you get constipated. Again, you don't absorb your nutrients, you don't digest your food, you don't get the nutrients that you need to detox, to perform basic functions, to balance hormones. So yeah, digestion is really important, and it all starts with stomach acid.
Yes, and a lot of people mistake that where the GERD starts to happen and they feel that kind of burn come up and oh, I have too much stomach acid. No, you don't. You don't have too much stomach. Very few people have too much stomach acid.
Right. And totally, actually, one of my good friends who is an MD, we were talking about the use of PPIs a few weeks back, and I'll probably get a text about him saying, "Oh, you're bringing this up."
Proton pump inhibitors, for people that don't know what PPIs are. Yep.
Totally, and you know, we were talking about, we were talking about, you know, what are the benefits and what are the cons of when you're taking these. And this is my argument: is look at all the things that it does, and then, you know, yes, you're taking it in the short term so that you can, you know, do something like address H. pylori with an antibiotic. But what are your long-term implications of taking this drug? You can predispose yourself to getting the same infection again because you've lowered your stomach acid and you've lowered your first line of defense. Yes. So stomach acid, guys, is probably the most important biological substance when it comes to digestion, because it is like the domino that chain starts everything else. And
yet popping Tums or Rolaids, people go through jars upon jars of those things, and it's just you're just putting a temporary band-aid on a long-term problem that needs to be solved with nutrition and other things. And so Alexandra, what a episode. Thank you so much for being here today, guys. Again, that's Alexandra Bucko. Go check her out through Health and Back, the soon-to-be Dr. Alexandra Bucko. How much more of the program till you're officially a doctor?
I told you, Jimmy, I honestly don't think I'm going to finish it. I really think no, I'm not kidding.
No, I hear you.
I don't think I'm going to stay in. Yeah, I really think it's going to be a transfer, just because it's not in alignment, you know? Yeah.
Well, let's just say your knowledge is massive and you're doing a great service. And if nothing else, going through that, you at least got to see the allopathic medicine kind of way of things, and it gives you an appreciation for your knowledge about nutrition and lifestyle things. So it was not wasted time if you do decide to make that decision to move on, but I'm proud of you. I've followed your journey since you've been in med school, and so I'm really proud that you've at least stuck it out this long, and I know it was really difficult there for a bit for you, and so hang in there, and thank you for being on here today.
Totally. Thanks, Jimmy. And it was good to talk to you finally. I'm so happy we finally got to do this.
We've known each other for a little while. This is the first time we've actually talked on the phone. Yeah. We've DM'd a lot, but we've never actually talked and seen each other on camera. So this was fun. We did it on my podcast. So.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Time to get inspiration from the Living La Vida Low Carb Show. Hey, the LLVLC. Woo!
You tired of playing the mask game? Me too. That's why I wanted to tell you about the Unmask. This is a breathable, completely breathable. It covers, you can't even see that it's breathable, but it's breathable. Whether you're going on a plane, having to go into a store and wearing this thing, playthemaskgame.com is how you can get this mask. They come in all kinds of colors and everything. In fact, right there, you can see right through it what it is, but when you're wearing it, it does not look like it's anything different, but it's breathable, baby. Playthemaskgame.com.